Okay, we're in the SAGE projects document, and this document has been designed for Essex County College students taking Math 119, 120, 121, and 122. The expectation is, no matter what course you're in, you follow it from excuse me, you follow it from the beginning. For example, I'm going to be starting the projects in Math 121, which is Calculus 1 at Essex County College. But the expectation is you've done the projects in Math 119 and in Math 120, all right? But let me go to Project A in Math 121. So this is Math 121, and I'm going to go to Project A. And click on that. So the first thing I want to get across to you is that you're going to have to learn how to launch Sage. And again, my recommendation to you, and I've said this in the past, whether it was in 119 or 120, that you need to install Sage on your computer. All right. So once you get Sage installed on your computer, I want to point out it would probably be in your applications folder. So I want to go to my applications folder, and I'm going to go through a variety of ways of launching it. So you double click on Sage, and what's going to do is going to launch Sage Math. Now you have two options over here. One is by command line, the other one is by Jupyter Notebook. Now if you're going to do a Jupyter Notebook, again, I want to emphasize, if you're using Jupyter Notebooks, the point of using a Jupyter Notebooks is they're easy to share, all right? Whereas a terminal is pretty much like a handheld calculator. You're not sharing anything, you're just doing computations. And that's what most people do. They use Sage as a calculator, all right? That's the way I'm going to be using it for the most part. But again, when you get into the domain of sharing documents, which is typical, you're going to have to create a Jupyter Notebook to share it, all right? And so what you do is create a directory. For example, see my directory, it's in the users directory. My name is Ron Bannon. I'm putting in the documents, and I'm calling them Jupyter Notebook, all right? You would select that. It opens the web interface up. And the web interface, although it may look like you're on the web, it's just a web interface. The document's still being saved to your your directory that you have on your computer. All right. So I'm going to do this now. I'm going to select it. I'm going to select the Jupyter Notebook, and it says you already have a Jupyter server running with the notebook directory shown. Do you want to stop the server and start a new one? Yeah, I guess I had one running. I didn't know it. And let's see what I got over here. You know what? Let me just cancel this out. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll try launch again. Sorry about that. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I think I want to create a new one, right? So I'll create new, and I want to create a Sage Math 9.4 session. I got it open, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to name it something, and I don't know, I'll name it, this is a Sage test. And then I can put the return. All right, so that's my name of that document now. And again, my expectation is you've had some experience with the 119 and 120 already. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, pull this forward a little bit. And I want to do it. Now, certainly, I'm going to have to make this document a little bit smaller over here. And I'll pull this one down. And I'm going to start typing it in. And the first thing I'll type in is reset, R-E-S-E-T, and then parentheses over there. This is a command. Hit return. Nothing happened, by the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit shift return. All right, something happened over there. All right. Next thing, x equals a var. Whoops. And I'm going to do shift return. Remember, you must hit shift and return. You know what? I'm getting kind of tired, and I know students get tired too when they copy paste. I want to point out, it's not a very attractive thing to be tired all the time, but I understand people do get exhausted and they need a shortcut, and a copy paste is one of them. That's not a skill, by the way. I can copy paste. I typed this in already though, so I type all your notes up. All right. Now, if I hit return again, I want to point out nothing happened. I need to hit shift return. You notice the number changed. That's 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say g of x. I'll read this to you. And this is something we have not seen before. And what's g of x? They want you to differentiate f of x with respect to x. Again, if I hit return, nothing happens. I want to point out there's no number over here. All right, nothing happened there. Shift return. It turns into the number 4 now. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to plot. All right. Now I'm gonna talk about this. And what does it do? It's plot, and P1 is a placeholder. It's storing a plot now. It's storing the plot of f of x and g of x on the domain between -10 and 10. Now again, if I hit return, nothing happens. Let me back up, shift return. It turned into the number 5 now. And let's do this one over here. And what does this one do? It's going to take that placeholder P1 and display it. It's going to show it to the world. And I am the world at this point. Remember, shift return. And I get a picture. All right? And that's good news. I got a picture. Now here's the problem. I'm just saying, oh, I'm done now. You really haven't even thought about what was questioned. So that's a problem. A lot of people think that's their education is that they're done with it, that they type something in and they say, thank God I'm done with that, and anything I was doing, but I got it typed up. No, you didn't get anything done. What you did was you just simply retyped. And if you think that's a skill, I want to assure you it's not a skill. So anyway, what's the project over there? To graph this thing out and its derivative on the same axes. And we did that. But I got to be honest with you, I'm a little confused by it. All right? So I want to kind of talk through it, but I am going to read further over here. And I want to point out there is a graph, and the graph is a graph of both that, let me point out that, what I mean by that, f, graphing out f and its derivative. And I can see that now. I can see the graph of f. This is this sawtooth curve over here. And then I see this, kind of like curve over here. You could go to curve. But I want to point out there's some artifacts in this curve that don't belong there. And I want to tell you what those artifacts are. There's connections over here. And these connections are artifacts. They shouldn't be there. This vertical line segment should not be there. So what do I know about the derivative over here? The derivative has a slope to it. Right? Now what I mean by that is a line. What's the slope of that line? Well, it looks like, it looks about a half. All right? It looks about a half to me. Now, so how'd you get that? Well, let's take a look at it. I'm kind of looking at it, and I'm noticing, if I just get a segment over here, I have to do rise and run, right? And I'm saying the rise and run. I have to look at the numbers, by the way. You notice the numbers over here are different than the numbers over here. Like this is -5, and this is 1.5. So the scale is different. And that often confuses students. The scale is different. But anyway, I'm going to say the slope of this line segment over here is roughly about a half, looking at rises and run. And again, you need to give it some thought. Now, what do I notice over there? On the interval from here to here, the slope is 0.5. Now, the slope over there, it looks about -0.5 to me. Now, what's happening over here? The derivative is actually undefined at that sharp corner. What are they doing? They're connecting it. That doesn't belong there, right? Just doesn't belong there. So I realize the graph might be difficult to do, right? It might be difficult to do, but you may want to give that more thought than I'm giving it now, and that's part of your education. When you start thinking, why did this graph out like that saw, right? Why did the derivative graph out as this thing over here, all right? But again, part of using software is to think about what's happening over here. All right, let me go to the next thing, which is going to be the picture that I got for you. And I want to point out that when I do the derivative by hand, it's tough. I know that. If you're not at that stage yet, don't worry about it. But I got this as my derivative. And I want to point out this derivative is clearly undefined whenever the sign takes on a value of 0, right? I also want to claim that I regraphed it using different technology. And this is actually a better graph for me. It's a better graph. Now, I'm getting the same image, but there's no vertical connections over here. And the slopes of these things over here, again, roughly 0.5, and they're being graphed out over here. So someone says, how did you do this graph then if you didn't use Sage? I use an application called Grapher. And if you go back over my Math 119 and 120, I always say it's nice to have a variety of tools, right? If you only have one tool set, one tool in your tool set, you're going to be really frustrated over time. And I want to warn you about this. A lot of students will transfer to NJIT, and their default tool is called MATLAB. I'm not saying it's a bad product, but I really have to assure you, one product doesn't fit all. You need bunch of different products over there. I will say Sage is nice though. It's very nice. And it's also based on Python. And I believe anyone entering to the STEM-related career should learn a programming language. And right now, Python, it's really, I would say, at the top of the list for most people, right? It's a really nice software product for coding, all right? But I think for the most part, I kind of covered that out, and there's not much else to say about that, and then we'll go on to Project B later. Before I do that, though, I want to point out, if I want to share this document with somebody, I'm going to say, I'm going to click this button over here. And this is typical for students that are used to using software. This is like a save, and it's a little picture of a disk, by the way. Now, I'm not saving it to the disk. I'm saving it to my computer. Now, someone says, I don't remember where that file was. So what I want to do is I want to search for it. So I'm going to go to my Finder. I'm going to search for the file. Let me close this window out. All right. So I'm going to search for that file. And by the way, I noticed it immediately. And let me point out where it is. As I said, by the way, the parent directory of Ron Bannon is users. It's in my users folder, right? And my name is Ron Bannon. And what folder is it in? It's in, if you recall, it's in the Jupyter. Do you remember that? I put, Ron Bannon Jupyter. So documents, let me do that. And I'm going to look for my Jupyter folder. Jupyter, oh, right here. And I got a bunch of files in over there. Now, you know, say, what file are you talking about? Let me go back to search, because for most people, that's what they're going to do anyway. And I see it. All right, and where is it? Well, if I click on it again, I want to point out you could navigate to that directory, but I got it right here just by searching it. Now, if you want to mail it to someone, what you can do is just drag it to your mail program. I'm using Mail. And Mail's going to open up, unless I'm going to mail it to myself. Not a good idea, but I could do that. So Bannon, you get the idea. And, this is a file that you need to look at. Oops. I think you get the idea. You can mail it to somebody. I'm not going to do that, though. I'm going to call it quits on that. I'm going to quit it out. All right, I'm not going to mail it off. Don't save it. All right. All right, let me go back to the Finder. And let's say I were the recipient of that file. I'm going to double click on it. Let's see what happens. It says choose an application. Right? It doesn't know what application that is yet. I'll tell you the number one reason why is I don't use these things. All right. So what application I'm going to choose? I'm going to choose Sage. And it's giving me a list of applications over here. Let me see if I got Sage somewhere. PQRS. I wonder why I'm not seeing Sage there. I didn't have an alphabetical order, that's why. It's not let me do it. I'm going to say all applications. I'm going to say not recommended. And let me collect the Sage now. Again, it's my first time actually doing this. And test project. What was the name of the file I had? Oh, right there. And it's right back over there. All right, so you could open that file up. All right, so it's a good way to share. All right, good way to share. All right, thank you for paying attention.